The wedding dress hung in the corner of the small apartment bedroom, like a ghost. Its ivory silk catching the afternoon light that filtered through the thin curtains. Lily Chen stared at it with a mixture of dread and resignation, her hands trembling as she smoothed down her simple black hair. In 2 hours, she would walk down the aisle wearing that dress. In 2 hours, she would marry a man she had never met, taking her sister's place in an arrangement that would save their family from financial ruin. "You don't have to do this," her mother said quietly from the doorway, though they both knew that wasn't true. Lily turned to face the woman who had raised her and her sister alone after their father's death. Lines of worry etched her mother's face, and her hands were rough from years of working multiple jobs to keep them afloat. When Rose had disappeared 3 days before her arranged wedding, leaving only a note about following her dreams to Paris, their mother had looked defeated for the first time in Lily's memory. "Yes, I do," Lily said simply. "The contract is with the Chen family, not specifically with Rose. Mr. Blackwood needs a wife for his business arrangements, and we need the money for your medical bills." Her mother's cancer treatment had drained their savings and left them drowning in debt. The marriage contract with the reclusive millionaire Adrian Blackwood had seemed like a miracle when Rose had agreed to it. Now it felt like Lily's only choice. "But he's expecting Rose," her mother protested weakly. "She's the beautiful one, the charming one. What if He's blind, mother," Lily interrupted gently. "He won't know the difference unless someone tells him. And Rose and I sound similar enough over the phone." What Lily didn't say was that she had always lived in her sister's shadow. Rose was the outgoing twin, the one who lit up rooms and attracted attention wherever she went. Lily was the quiet one, the responsible one, the one who had put aside her own dreams of art school to work and help support their family. The car that arrived to take her to the small private ceremony was sleek and black, with a driver who spoke in polite, measured tones. Lily sat in the back seat, her hands folded tightly in her lap, trying to calm her racing heart. She had researched Adrian Blackwood extensively in the 3 days since Rose had fled. 32 years old, he had built a technology empire despite losing his sight in a car accident at 25. He was described in business articles as brilliant but reclusive. Someone who rarely appeared in public and conducted most of his affairs through intermediaries. The ceremony was held in a small chapel with only a handful of witnesses: Adrian's lawyer, his assistant, and a business associate. Lily walked down the short aisle on shaking legs, her eyes fixed on the man waiting for her at the altar. Adrian Blackwood was not what she had expected. The photos she had found online were mostly from before his accident, and they hadn't prepared her for the reality of him. He was tall and lean, with dark hair that showed traces of premature silver at the temples. His face was aristocratic, with sharp cheekbones and a strong jaw. But it was his stillness that struck her most. He stood with the absolute composure of someone who had learned to navigate the world without sight. As she approached, he turned his head slightly in her direction, and she could see his eyes were a pale gray, unfocused, but somehow still penetrating. The ceremony was brief and businesslike. Lily spoke her vows in a voice she hoped sounded like Rose's, promising to honor and cherish a man she didn't know. When Adrian spoke his vows, his voice was deep and careful, each word precisely chosen. "You may kiss the bride," the officiant announced. Adrian stepped closer, and Lily held her breath as he leaned down. The kiss was gentle, almost tentative, lasting only a moment before he pulled away. But in that brief contact, Lily felt something shift inside her chest, a flutter of awareness she hadn't expected. The reception was held at Adrian's mansion, a sprawling estate on the outskirts of the city. Lily found herself overwhelmed by the elegance of it: all crystal chandeliers, marble floors, and artwork that probably cost more than her family had ever owned. "You're very quiet tonight," Adrian observed as they stood together during a brief moment alone. His assistant had introduced them to the small gathering of guests, but Adrian hadn't said much directly to her. "I'm sorry," Lily said, then caught herself. Rose would never apologize for being quiet. Rose was never quiet. "I mean, it's been a long day." Adrian nodded, his head tilted slightly as if he were listening to something she couldn't hear. "You sound tired. Different than you did on the phone." Panic fluttered in Lily's chest. "I suppose I am tired. It's been a stressful few weeks, preparing for all this." "Of course," Adrian said politely. but something in his tone suggested he wasn't entirely convinced. The evening passed in a blur of polite conversation and careful navigation around Adrian's business associates. Lily found herself watching her new husband, fascinated by how he moved through the world with such confidence despite his blindness. He seemed to know exactly where everything was, and people naturally deferred to his quiet authority. As the guests began to leave, Lily felt her anxiety spike. Soon they would be alone. Soon she would have to continue this deception in the privacy of his home. "Shall I show you to your room?" Adrian asked once the last guest had departed. Lily blinked in surprise. "My room? I thought you might prefer separate bedrooms." "At least initially," Adrian said carefully. "I know this arrangement is unconventional. I don't want you to feel pressured." Relief flooded through her. "Thank you. That's very considerate." Adrian led her through the house, one hand lightly trailing along the wall, the other gesturing to point out various rooms. His bedroom was at the end of one hallway, while hers was in the opposite wing, beautiful suite with its own sitting room and bathroom. "If you need anything, just press the intercom button by the bed," Adrian said from the doorway. "Mrs. Patterson, my housekeeper, can help you with whatever you need." "Thank you," Lily said softly. Adrian hesitated for a moment, as if he wanted to say something more. Instead, he simply nodded and said, "Good night, Rose." The name hit Lily like a physical blow, reminding her of the lie she was living. "Good night," she managed. Over the following weeks, Lily settled into a strange routine. Adrian left early for his office most days, conducted business calls from his home study, and was polite but distant during their brief interactions. Lily spent her days exploring the vast house, reading in the library, and trying to figure out how to be the wife he expected. But as time passed, she began to notice things about Adrian that intrigued her. He listened to classical music while he worked, played piano beautifully in the evenings, and had an extensive collection of books in Braille. He was kind to his staff, patient with business associates, and had a dry sense of humor that emerged during their occasional dinners together. Most surprisingly, he seemed genuinely interested in her opinions, when she forgot to act like Rose and spoke as herself. During one dinner conversation about a charity event he was planning, Lily found herself suggesting art therapy programs for children, drawing on her own abandoned dreams of being an artist. "That's an interesting idea," Adrian said, his unseeing gaze fixed in her direction. "You've never mentioned being interested in art before." Lily's heart stopped. I've always been interested, just never had the chance to pursue it seriously." "Perhaps you should now," Adrian said quietly. "We have the resources. You could take classes, set up a studio." The kindness in his voice made Lily's chest ache with guilt. This man was offering to support dreams he thought belonged to Rose, dreams that Rose had never even had. Everything changed on a rainy Thursday evening, 3 weeks after their wedding. Lily had been reading in the library when she heard a crash from Adrian's study, followed by a muffled curse. She found him kneeling on the floor, trying to collect the scattered papers from a file that had apparently fallen from his desk. "Let me help," Lily said, dropping to her knees beside him. "I can manage," Adrian said tersely, clearly frustrated with himself. "I know you can," Lily said gently, gathering papers and placing them in a neat stack. "But you don't have to." As she handed him the last of the documents, their fingers brushed. Adrian went very still, his head turning toward her with sudden focus. "Rose," he said uncertainly. Before Lily could respond, Adrian raised his hand slowly, hesitantly, toward her face. "May I?" Lily's breath caught, but she nodded, then realized he couldn't see the gesture. "Yes," she whispered. Adrian's fingers touched her cheek with incredible gentleness, tracing the line of her cheekbone, the curve of her jaw. His touch was so tender, so reverent, that Lily felt tears spring to her eyes. But as his fingers mapped her features, Adrian's expression changed. His brow furrowed, and his hand stilled against her skin. "You're not Rose," he said quietly. The words hung in the air between them like a judgment. Lily closed her eyes, unable to look at him even though he couldn't see her shame. "No," she whispered. "I'm not." Adrian's hand didn't move from her face. If anything, his touch became more gentle. "Who are you?" "I'm Lily," she said, her voice barely audible. "Rose's twin sister." She left 3 days before the wedding. I took her place because my family needed the money, and I thought you'd never know the difference." Silence stretched between them. Lily waited for anger, for accusations, for him to demand she leave immediately. Instead, Adrian's thumb brushed away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. "Lily," he said softly, as if testing how her real name felt on his tongue. "I'm sorry," she said, the words tumbling out in a rush. "I know I deceived you, and I know you have every right to be furious. I can leave tonight if you want. I can have the marriage annulled and—" "Lily," Adrian said again, more firmly this time. "Stop." She fell silent, hardly daring to breathe. "The woman I've been getting to know these past few weeks," Adrian said slowly. "The one who suggests art therapy for children and reads to me from the newspaper in the mornings when she thinks I'm not paying attention. The one who hums while she arranges flowers and laughs at terrible jokes during old movies, that's you." Lily nodded, then remembered he couldn't see. "Yes." "Then I don't want Rose," Adrian said simply. "I want you." Lily's eyes flew open to stare at him in shock. "But you barely know me, and I lied to you." "You sacrificed yourself for your family," Adrian corrected. "You stepped into an impossible situation and tried to make the best of it. And in the process, you gave me something I never expected to find." "What's that?" Adrian's other hand came up to frame her face, and when he spoke, his voice was rough with emotion. "A real marriage. With a woman who sees me as more than just my money or my disability. A woman who makes me laugh and challenges my ideas and makes me want to be better than I am." "Adrian," Lily breathed. "I've been falling in love with you, Lily," he said. "Not Rose, you, the real you." Before she could respond, Adrian leaned down and kissed her. This kiss was nothing like the polite peck they had shared at their wedding. This was passionate and desperate and full of all the feelings that had been building between them for weeks. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Adrian rested his forehead against hers. "Will you stay?" he asked. "Not as Rose, not as part of some business arrangement, but as yourself, as my wife." Lily looked into his sightless eyes and saw more clearly than she ever had before. She saw a future filled with love and partnership, with art studios and charity galas and quiet evenings spent reading together. She saw a man who valued her mind and her heart, who wanted to build something real with her. "Yes," she whispered, "I'll stay." And when Adrian smiled, it was like the sun coming out after a storm, bright and warm and full of promise. He had touched her face and found not the woman he had expected, but the one he was meant to love. And in that touch, Lily had found herself not Rose's shadow, but a woman worthy of love in her own right. Their real marriage, like their love, began with truth. And that truth would be the foundation of everything beautiful they would build together.